party in the garden. The time was falling, love in the summertime. Ooh, yeah, yeah. And I'm unified, feeling oh so unified. In the light now, in the light now. Every day, it's a gift. That's why we call it the blessing. We were born on the garden of Eve, with the flowers growing and little birds chirping. I was in the garden just having a laugh, till I met a monster cross my path. Hey guy, do you want some mozzarella? I could get you lit up one of two ways. What's it gonna be, man? What's it gonna be, man? Say it, I feel like the whole world was begging me to rain fire above upon my enemies. Till the love washed over me, till I let the love wash over me. Say it, I forgot the whole world begging me to rain fire above upon my enemies. Till the love washed over me, till I let the love wash over me every day. It's a gift, that's why we call it the blessing. Every day, it's a gift, that's why we call it the blessing.
Irina Salutska arrived with her family in the United States in 2022, fleeing the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, her home country. Surviving the start of the war in Kiev must have been difficult, not to mention leaving your home, family, and friends behind to start a life across the pond. Last August 22, Irina was at a light rail station in Charlotte's South End neighborhood in North Carolina. Surveillance footage shows her boarding the train and sitting in front of the perpetrator. No security personnel were present in the train car, though there were officers on board, one car ahead. 4 minutes later, the perpetrator pulled a pocket knife from his hoodie before stabbing her 3 times, including at least once in the neck. Shockingly, many witnesses around Irina, seemingly also African American, watch and do nothing. After the killing, the attacker can be seen dripping blood across the floor as he carries the weapon. He takes off his bloody hoodie and then calmly waits for the train to pull into the station before exiting. Bystanders barely seem to notice that a young woman has just been knifed to death right behind him, but eventually some come to Irina's aid, with one man wrapping his shirt around the wound. The suspect exited the train 2 minutes later and was arrested by police on the platform. Sadly, Irina was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect was charged with first-degree murder following his arrest. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department has not disclosed any motive, and the investigation remains ongoing. The suspect, 34-year-old Carlos Brown Jr., who was fair jumping at the time he murdered Irina, had been previously arrested multiple times and convicted of robbery with a dangerous weapon, breaking and entering, and larceny, as well as being charged with assault and misuse of the 9/11 system. More than a dozen convictions dating back to 2014, and he was free to do this. Irina was still wearing her work uniform from the pizzeria when she was attacked. A young woman with good values, goals, and dreams is no longer here because of sheer hatred. On the other side, we have a bum, a filthy career criminal who was defrauding civilization just by being out of jail, in addition to not paying for his ticket, of course. Let's call this what it is, a horrid hate crime.
You losing blood, bro. Man, losing blood real bad, bro. Bad and third. Huh? Said what? You losing blood bad, bro.
Then, while standing alone, he seems to utter his reason for this whole thing.
It's over with, nigga.
Okay, everybody, you've probably heard the situation that happened in North Carolina. Say the name Irina Zarutska. Irina Zarutska was just riding public transit. By the way, she was a refugee from Ukraine, of all places, and she came to Charlotte, North Carolina. And a terrible person, well, you saw what happened. I can't describe it here on TikTok without some sort of community guideline being violated. But if you haven't seen the video, you absolutely should. This individual should not have been on the streets, 14 prior arrests. And it really makes you wonder, why are we putting up with this? Why are we allowing so many people that have committed these crimes to keep on being released? The magistrate judge continued to release this individual, and this is a horrific thing. You know, it's really interesting. The media was totally covering George Floyd, tens of thousands of articles, reconfigured and changed the entire American body politic. That when it came to Irina Zarutska, the entire media was quiet, silent. In fact, we forced them to cover the story. Why do you think that is? What was the difference between George Floyd and Irina Zarutska? Why did the left care so much about George Floyd and they couldn't care less about Irina Zarutska? What could the difference be? I wonder. Would love for you guys to leave some comments.
Okay, here we go. That's weird. I kind of unmuted myself. Rumble Studios doesn't really work well for me. I don't know what it is. I always had some kind of problem with it, but we're going to start right away with what's important. And obviously, a lot of you are very knowledgeable about what's going on in the world. Some of you have been researching, have been sharing, and doing your own research for years. Um, Needless to say, without having a podcast or whatever. You guys are not stupid. A lot of people kind of see what's going on, others don't. And this is the big problem because I believe we are against the wall at this time now. Um, and we are faced with a paradox, which seems to be brilliant on the side of the predatory class, because this plan that they have been devising for years is no joke. Um, to put everyone to put things into perspective, imagine that white folks, Christians in general, have been making efforts to accommodate, to accept, to learn from other cultures, to open borders, to help people with special visas, and all of the sorts. And at the same time, there has been a push, social engineering agenda, if you will, to make other ethnicities hate white people because of some sort of um, old debt, old thing that needs to be settled. Um, some call it how do they call it? Repairs, reparations, and it's just a silly argument because, as most people that have actually studied history, we know that every single people in the world has enslaved others, other races, and so on. White people were basically fodder cannon for the Muslims for centuries. And it has been the case with black people enslaving other blacks, uh, Native Americans enslaving other Native Americans, and so on. We're past that conversation. Now, the responsibility that I have comes about the fact that I have been very insistent in sharing and exposing violence when it's committed against white people, especially by black people, by Islamists, Middle Easterners, Asians, Africans, you name it. There is a pervasive violence coming from migrants, especially illegal migrants, and Islamists, especially, towards white people. Um, there's also, especially in the United States, but if you look at places like France and England and Portugal, where I live, uh, the violence of black people against white people is also very common. Now we have this case of Irina Sarutska, which of course is horrible. It's something that you could say is life changing when you after you see that video and you see that poor girl uh, without any recourse, unable to defend herself. Um, it's also enraging and disgusting to see the people that were around at the time she was attacked who did nothing, who barely even looked at the woman, who was after the attack. I guess she was alive for a few minutes, and she was crying. She was in shock. She was lonely. Um, just a tragedy, and this is a thing that happens almost every week in the West. Uh, I don't want to say every day because, to be honest, I could be exaggerating, but perhaps it happens. It's just that we just don't have uh, proper communication of these events. Now, the division among people by race, by religion, clearly is part of the agenda of the elites. This is not something that is provoked by the failure of the system. This is all by design. It has happened. It's a plan that has been going on for hundreds of years. And we have a dilemma. I'm going to go with the dilemma first and then the paradox. The dilemma comes about because we have three fronts to fight. You know, and I'm going to have to delay a bit of and carry away from the main point I was trying to make a couple minutes ago, because we have to talk about this first. As white Europeans, white Americans, we are obviously interested in protecting our own, protecting the weak, the vulnerable, and preserving our culture. We don't want to erase anybody from the world. We don't want to genocide any race, any religion. I personally believe everyone has the right to live on this earth, and everyone has their own homes. That's my personal belief. I don't think that multiculturalism it's that great because it actually creates this bastardization of culture all around ghettos and people that don't really assimilate, and it creates a social breach that it's actually damaging for both sides in reality. Um, Diversity is beautiful when you travel all around the world. We would like to extend um, our invitation to people from other cultures to come and visit as tourists and, you know, uh, witness the wonders of America, witness the wonders of the West, of Europe, the beautiful cities in this continent. But we don't want people coming over to abuse the financial system, to try and impose the religion, to target and harm our children, women, and elderly. This is something that cannot be allowed. So we have three fronts, three enemies, three main targets. We are at war. Indeed, it's been happening for a while. Don't don't confuse what I'm trying to say as if I'm pushing for a racial war or anything like that. We have been at war with the traitors at government. We have been at war with the Zionists who have been scheming and blackmailing our politicians to do everything they want for decades. We are at war with the criminal migrants who come usually illegally or pretending to be asylum seekers who come because they know that we are way more tolerant with crimes and violence in general, even though we as Europeans are completely tied up as far as self defense goes. And so they come here to basically expand their criminal career. There's also a thing that a few people seem to talk about, which is, of course, that because of these Masonic wars, this is what these wars on the Middle East have been, in my opinion, obviously following the interests of the banking cartel led by Israel, have provoked uh, a domino effect in the region where a lot of children have grown seeing their countries destroyed by war, by occupation, by different kind of conflicts, human trafficking, all kinds of debauchery, dictatorships, and whatnot. Inside these countries in the Middle East, just like during the Second World War in Europe, there's many victims, there's many children, there's many survivors that are plugged in into the system, and basically MK Ultra to serve as sleeping cells to be used in the future for different purposes: spying, murder, um, random acts of violence, random, you name it, terrorist attacks, whatever. It just happens that when you see a government in Europe, for example, we had three arrests, three interrupted terrorist attacks last week. One in Italy, one in France, and one in England. Even though I heard that in England it was more than that, but I don't have reliable sources, so I'm not gonna say that. But so we need to define, because it's either giving up and dying, being completely erased from existence, from the history of this world, as far as our culture goes, because that's what they seem to want, to destroy America and destroy the West first. And you know the reasons, you could argue whatever it is your personal belief. Um, I have read on reliable sources that it's because the scientists consider that we don't do well as slaves. We white people, Westerners, we don't do well with slavery programming. So essentially, that's the main reason why they want to take us out first, because we are the real opposition for their plans and shenanigans, as we have been for centuries, I guess. They have always had problems with us. It just happens that now the infiltration is absurd. Um, so I did a poll on Telegram, basically asking people what should we do first. Should we focus on the traitors in our governments and take them out of government and seize control of the military and the police? Easier said than done, obviously. Should we go after the migrants ourselves, risking that the police is going to target the patriots instead of the migrants, and then we will be in a dodgy situation. And the other option is not really an option. The other option is going after the Zionists. But you know that Israel has nukes, that Israel has this incredible military power thanks to the, I guess, cuddling and protection of Europe and America, especially America. And so we as people cannot really do anything from here to take out whatever is happening in Israel. That's just not an option. And in the poll, most people decided or seems to think that we should go after the traitors in government first. And since I have tried to change and being more pragmatic and um, more open to consensus and to discussing ideas with people instead of settling on my own ways, which is not really that great. Sometimes, yes, when you have to make a hard decision in the moment, but when you're trying to diffuse the plan of the elites, when you're trying to counter these very hard plotted schemes that have been around for centuries, uh, you need to talk and discuss and rebound ideas with more intelligent people than yourself to try to come to an ideal plan to tackle things. So, yes, I do believe, and most of you believe, that we should go after the traitors first. I agree. Now, this is where the paradox comes. Because now, with this event of this murder of Irina Sarutska and the horrible murder of Charlie Kirk yesterday, you can see some influencers out there calling for war, literally, on Twitter and the diverse social media platforms. And that, for me, it's a clear indication that we need to chill. Whenever these talking heads are acting coordinated, trying to push people into skirmishes in the streets and civil war, that's when we should go and sleep on it and calm the F down. I am a person that has done tremendous efforts in trying for men to recover their God given duty of protectors, regardless of social status, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of political beliefs. Men are in charge of protection of the most vulnerable. So, in my obsession with trying to make men more aware, more well prepared, I've been pushing for prepping, been pushing for healthy eating, to eat healthy, the carnivore diet, working out, having weapons, training with weapons, training without weapons, all these kinds of things. So men are capable of protecting their loved ones, because I know that it's gonna probably come down to you at some point. And I don't want you to be caught with your hands in your pocket, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to shoot a gun, not with enough supplies to last you for a month during a blackout or whatever happens. This has been my mission because I want to preserve the most lives I can. Um, People have attacked me by saying that I only want to preserve white lives or Christian lives. It's not that. It's just that we obviously cannot fix everything at once. We cannot protect the world. One man cannot save everybody. So, obviously, first, I want my home to be safe. Once my home is safe, I want my neighbor's house to be safe. Once our houses are safe, I want the neighborhood to be better and safer. Once the neighborhood is there, I want the town, the village to be safer, and so on. Then the country, then Europe, then the West, then the world. But we gotta start small. And we must not give them what they want. Exactly, Murray. Maria Rochelle nails it. When they want you to go to war based on race and religion alone, don't do it. Don't fall for it. Whenever they want to keep you pacified, don't stay pacified. And I'm not gonna tell you what to do because obviously I'm limited by by the things I can say. There's no freedom of speech on social media. But you guys are smart enough to kind of figure out what I'm trying to say. Um, the paradox is the following, and I want you guys to help me reach uh, a fair conclusion to this dilemma. Um, the thing is that once, if we would be able to take out the traitors in government, then we can seize police and army, and then we can take care of the migrants. It's very easy. It will be a piece of cake, and then after that it's done, then we can focus on Israel and the problems they have been causing for centuries. But as long as the traitors that call themselves American, French, English, and are there in the government pretending that they care about us, and they are every day doing everything they can to destroy the country we love, as long as those people are there in power, there's nothing we can do. We're going to get arrested, we're going to get trapped, we're going to get psyoped, all kinds of things. How do we take out these people out of power? I don't know. Look at what happened at Nepal. The communist regime pushed it too hard. Uh, the media is trying to blame it on social media, that they banned social media and that's why the Nepalese had enough. No, it was a situation that had many problems: inflation, unemployment, social violence, all kinds of things. Heavy corruption, of course. The communists were sucking the country dry, and everyone was living on scraps. And I don't know if we can do this here. I don't know if we can do it in a lesser violent way. Ideally, I would want for us to be able to do this without anybody dying. Um, Sadly, that has never happened in history, I believe, where a regime is uh, pretty much defeated without any casualties. And that's the saddest part about what happened yesterday as well with Charlie. But I will talk about Charlie in a bit. The dilemma that we have, the paradox, is that numbers don't lie. It's not that we're blaming the migrants or blaming people who are not white for all of our problems. That's not what's going on here. That's a silly way to view it, and that's a silly way to shut down the conversation. Um, but the statistics don't lie, and the statistics are cooked to begin with. For example, I'll give you an example. They say that England's Islamic population is 6.9%, I believe, or 6.3 currently. I believe that number is insane. I believe it has to be over 13, 15% by now, if not more. If not more. Just look at cities like London and Birmingham. It's a disaster. Now, they say that blacks are twice as prone to attack white people than white people are prone to attack black people. Those are figures by the FBI from 2015, way before all this escalation happened, because this really started ramping up with the Obama governments, but then obviously post 2018 it went crazy with the George Floyd thing, Jolly Smollett, the Summer of Violence, the BLM riots. We all saw what happened. We all saw people getting beat up, people harassed in restaurants, people harassed in their homes just because they were white. And still, we turned the other cheek. Still, we kind of sensed that this was a common trend, but we are peaceful by nature. Let's not call it any other thing. We are good people. We are peaceful by nature. We want the general good for everyone. Sadly, some people don't want us to be around anymore. Some people seem to believe that our land belongs to them because in the past we took it from someone else. And if that would be the case, then nobody would have a land. Everyone has taken land from somebody. And that's how history got shaped, and that's how the map of the world got shaped. Deal with it. We live in civilized society nowadays. We're supposed to be over those periods of time of colonization and, you know, discovering new lands, trading tea for spices and all that. I think we're a bit beyond that. But these people insist on using pseudo history and pseudo morality to keep pushing this divide between races and between religions. And this is obviously also pushed by the politicians. The Democrats are um, extremely guilty of doing this, and so are the liberal politicians in Europe. It is ridiculous. Um, where when I grew up in the 90s, I remember that there was some racism because at least my first interaction with a black person was violent, and I was like 4 or 5 years old. Met these older kids at the park, tried to play with them, got thrown from one of the freaking games in the park, and even had a head injury and everything. Out of nowhere, no reason at all. I can promise you, I didn't provoke it. I was playing. Um, and when I talk to people, a lot of people seem to have similar experiences. I was talking with my wife, and she kind of agreed that was her experience as well. And how do we control that? How do we differentiate in between those who are a threat and those who are not? Irina, the woman that we just saw on video, thought that she was going to be safe sitting in front of this guy that, quite honestly, looks like a criminal, but she, I guess, is a bit naive and thinks that the United States is the land of the free and the land of, you know, rock and roll and peace and love and all that, even though it was never peaceful, even during those times. In fact, the 60s were quite violent. And it seems like we're living in a turmoil stage of history similar to the 60s as far as violence in politics go. So this lady, because she was not taught to be cautious around these people, is dead. It could have been easily avoided. And as I was telling my wife, these things happen almost every day in between America and Europe. We had a girl in Germany thrown to the rail tracks by two Muslims. She was 17, I believe. We had the Dutch girl killed by two Muslims in Netherlands. She was coming home on a bike from a party, from watching a game, a soccer game, I believe. She was murdered. She was 18. Spanish girls, Portuguese girls, Italian girls, Hungarian girls raped, abused, battered, assaulted, elderly ladies in the hospital. Like these violent incidents do happen quite a lot. Once a day is a lot. And even though it's different countries, I believe it's a lot. Because if you look at the way America and Europe were, let's say in 1996, which was a good year, I guess, except for the Serbia thing. Um, these incidents were not the common thing; they were the exception. So when they happened, people were utterly shocked. So now we're in a position where we need to tell our daughters, tell our mothers, our brothers, our children, our wives to be careful, to not risk it, to cross the street, to not get into that elevator, to not go down those stairs to the metro underground if they're going to be followed or accompanied by one of these people because you never know. And it's a tragic situation. Nobody wants to be stressed, looking behind their backs, under their shoulder, for threats everywhere. This is basically a general state of post traumatic stress disorder, is how I see it. Everyone is freaking out. Everyone is nervous. Everyone is jumpy. Nobody knows where the next knife is going to come from, basically. And people are calling for violence, and people are calling for retribution, and people are calling for separation, apartheid, and things like that. I personally don't know what the solution is. I know that what we have been doing in general, it's not going to work. Clearly, it's been a failed experiment. It has always been meant to fail because the authorities, the people in power, the powers that be, never really intended for us to get along. Ever. Their intention was always to keep us in this permanent state of division and just keep fostering this hatred in between the minorities against the white man, while at the same time filling us with poison, sending us to Jew wars to die. And, all of a sudden, we passed from being 30% of the world's population to being 7% of the world's population today, ladies and gentlemen. We were dominating Earth, civilization, helping others to become more advanced, for better or worse. These people that complain about colonization today have no idea how it was. Yes, bad things happened because during this colonization era, however you want to call it, sadly, some governments sent bad people on purpose because they felt that they needed to send someone there to kick some ass, to make an example out of a region for others to fall in line, because a lot of these guys in Africa, they were doing crazy stuff. You know, never mind sacrificial human sacrifices, rituals, voodoo, taking hearts out of the chest of their victims alive, like the Aztecs and the Mayans. But no, we came, we gave them a lot of infrastructure, a lot of technology. We taught them how to read and how to write. We improved their way of life from one moment to the other, and that's also the problem. They weren't ready. A lot of them, they weren't ready, and the second they were manipulated, because that's what happened in Africa, by the Soviets, by the Chinese, by and now by the Muslims invading everywhere. They destroyed everything that we had built over there. And if you look now, it's been what, 50 years. For example, Portugal left their colonies in 1975, if I'm not mistaken. It's been 50 years. Everything is destroyed. They have not been capable of maintaining any infrastructure, but we're the villains. And this is the mentality that the migrants come with. This is the mentality African Americans grow with in the ghettos. Obviously, there are exceptions. There are people of Africa and people of America, African Americans, that are amazing people, that are stand up citizens, that are conservative, that are against crime, that are for closed borders, you name it. Yes, there are. But we also have a tendency of some of these people taking their rage and their hatred out on us, on, on innocent women on a train. And so, as it turns out, problem, reaction, solution, the Freemasons want to, well, this is their creation. No, they have been working very hard to keep us divided across time. Now it has come the time where they want to ignite the flame of civil war, of hatred, of true violence, of true carnage in the West. What should we do? The opposite. Chill. Sleep on it. The violence that has happened during the last 2 weeks, or last 4 years, or last 10 years, is horrible. It's horrendous. Yes, watching. I don't know if Charlie Kirk. It's a difficult subject because I don't want to. If he was taken out as I think he was, I don't want to say anything that diminishes whatever change in conscience he had, or whatever change in direction he had at the end, that caused Israel to. So I don't want to speculate too much, even though I already seen enough. But how are we supposed to unite with law abiding citizens, no matter their race, no matter their religion, with this distrust in the middle? Distrust because we don't know which one of these people are going to react or violently or stab us in the back, or even uh, serve as an informant for the corrupt governments we're trying to fight against or oppose. The danger here is to judge everyone, every single person, the same. But how do we do that? How do we prevent doing that while at the same time preventing any more free violence in the metro, in an elevator, in the street, against us men and our women, children, and elderly? This is the paradox, guys. In an ideal world, we would unite against the criminals, foreign and domestic, all of them. We wouldn't unite just to fight black against white, because that's just, it's a bit stupid. It sounds stupid. It's gonna end up with something stupid, and a lot of stupid people are gonna die. And the stupid powers that be are gonna be all happy. because the best people on both sides are just killing each other, and so there's less people to oppose them, and nobody's talking among them, and nobody is realizing who is really pulling the strings behind the curtain. Nobody knows. Nobody discusses it. And the second we start to discuss it, something happens as a distraction. I've been called race baiter, I've been called racist, I've been called Islamophobe, xenophobe. First of all, those two words are stupid because phobia is fear. Nobody here fears you. Nobody here is afraid of telling you what we think of you. If you're a criminal, if you're a crackhead, nobody here is afraid of telling things as they are. We would just rather move on with our lives and not have to deal with your problems, with your inadequacy to live in civilized society. Yes, there are cases in which there has been tragedy and injustice and a false start. But most of these people who resort to violence, who resort to crime, they just took the easy way out. It's easy to be a criminal. It's easy to just wake up one day when you are 25 and you owe money to your drug dealer and say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to drug deals myself. I'm just going to deal drugs myself and pay this debt and then take this guy out and steal whatever he has and carry on. And of course, you know that long term you're going to end up dead or in jail, and you're never going to be happy and at peace because you're going to be paranoid 24/7, but the money's worth it, right? No, it's not. But still, the easy way out, peer pressure, having terrible people as friends that give you bad advice, having people that are from gangs as friends that advise you to join them. This is what most young people live with nowadays, especially in black neighborhoods. Hey, that's part of the social engineering. But still, social engineering or not, a criminal is a criminal. We're just not going to give you a pass stabbing on video an innocent girl, Irina, just because you grew up without a daddy and you didn't have any Legos and puzzles to play with. That's not how the world works. You don't have reasons to be evil. Nobody is obliged to give you anything. You're not entitled to be a murderer because your life is shit. So I really want to listen to my audience. I want to listen to everyone that we can find, anyone that is aware of this problem or that wants to be aware of it. What do they want to do? What do they think the solution is? Because we need all the thinking we can get. This is it's an extreme situation because I've been thinking about this paradox for the last 24 hours. Yesterday, when I saw the Charlie Kirk thing, I didn't want to come in. I was there with my wife. I told her what happened, and we were talking about it for basically 2 3 hours and trying to find more information. And I just said, yeah, no, I'm gonna do a post about paying my respects because I believe so far that he was changing his tune in regards to Israel, and that's why he was taken out. And I'm gonna show you some of those things that I found today in a bit. As a human being, he seemed to be a great father. He seemed to be a great husband. He was a working machine, but then again, it seems that his mistake was to take that Jewish money to begin with. And once you take those fundings, once you take those donations, once you check those hands, you are compromised in a way, even if they don't have blackmail on you yet, or even if they don't get blackmail on you at all, they're not gonna let you slide away with their investment. They're not gonna let you turn your backs on them and start denouncing their crimes and how damaging they are for the sovereignty of both America and Europe. I don't think they want to let you go after that. So I personally believe that's what happened. There's more than one thing that indicates that. Other people online seem to think that it was a fake murder, it was all a hoax, he's alive somewhere. He had a hose inside his shirt. There was some confusion there with the ring disappearing and appearing. Some people were saying it was AI. People already verified that it was a ring that you can transfer from finger to finger. So, you know, more, show me more before I go around saying it was a hoax. Because so to a lot of things, if you're mistaken, of course. And I think that the risk of doing that is just far too high. So I need, as a risk management guy, evidence, enough for me to even fathom, to question a death, a murder, an execution, like in this case, um, a grieving wife, a grieving girl, a grieving boy, toddlers, I believe. And we're talking about grieving parents, grieving friends, a lot of people traumatized, the people that were attending the event, that were involved, of course, life. People. I remember the first time I saw an execution in front of me in person. Um, I think I was 17. I was 17 and I was just walking around with my friends outside some bars, some clubs, and I just saw a guy get executed in front of me with a gun. And I remember uh, being the person that was the least scared. You know, that you witness, you assimilate in different ways because I saw those accounts lips from TikTok and known scientists literally asking for people to go to war in the streets. You know, because they obviously have sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I don't know if my camera is on. Okay. Let me know if the camera is good. It kind of. And yes, women need to ask men for help. Women also need to be smarter from now on, with all due respect. We all do, but women especially. Um, avoid walking back home alone. Sadly, this is the world we live in now. It took us a long time to be able to say, "Hey, our cities are safe. You guys can coming out of the bushes and trying to rape you." And we have giving away that territory, that battle for people to be this dilemma create strong. It goes like that. I don't know. So, what do you guys think? I do believe that it is now the time. Obviously, I'm not gonna stop bringing awareness to these things because migration continues to be a huge problem because violence against whites continues to be a huge problem, and I need to talk about it. It's not fair. If a phone call that someone I love got assaulted like this, because truth to be told, I'm trying to be a better Christian and not act um, rashly and not be violent in excess. Like there's, you can measure the level, the amount of violence that you need to resolve in a specific matter, and not go over that. Um, but I really get upset, and I don't know what could happen, and I don't want to be in that position. As a man, I don't want to have to struggle with the rage that comes with someone I love dearly being assaulted by one of these people. I don't know if I could take it. I don't know if I could resist. I don't know if I could be just and pious. I just don't know. And in knowing myself, I know it would be a great struggle. Um, one thing is true. One thing that people are saying is true, and is that, and I've been saying it. Once the pendulum swings back, you're gonna regret all this provocation, all this hatred, all this conflict. Because, to be honest, whites have not been fighting. We have not been fighting. We just have been turning the other cheek for decades, you could say. It's been 30, 40 years of turning the other cheek with this replacement. Because obviously, when you go to exactly, even Jesus had a temper. You don't see open border policies and we need diversity signs and murals in Thailand. You don't see we need diversity and we need this and that in murals in let's say Israel. You don't see this kind of agendas pan out in countries like, I don't know, South Africa, Congo, Morocco. I don't see Morocco bringing Chinese students and Canadians and people from South America to diversify and make it a better place. No, no, no. They're bringing a lot of the worst people of those places to Europe and America to destroy it from within. And I've been saying it for a while. The master plan is a simultaneous war in which the army is going to be absent because the army is going to be fighting on the fronts on this war that is going to be the East versus the West. This is what I have been predicting. Obviously, there's going to be other micro conflicts, but it's mostly that way. and an internal civil war in between natives, us, and sadly, it seems that the Gaza crowd, the Muslims, and the blacks and the migrants are one team in themselves. Some blacks, obviously, who are law abiding and believe in and not being part of the Democrat plantation, have already transitioned, and they are valuable fighters in our army of thinkers and, you know, if the time comes, fighters. But, for the most part, is all of us whites against the world, against the illegal migrants, against the criminals, against the politicians that pretend to care about us, against the Zionists, against the Satanists, you name it. And this is not the black pill special. This is not for you to be depressed and to say, you know what? Screw it. We cannot win. I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to go and drink my collection of 50 bottles of wine or some crazy stuff like that. Um, you can never give up. You have to fight until your last breath, and until we have one man standing, we're gonna fight. And that's the mentality that has always been pervasive with our forefathers, and it's the mentality we have to maintain today. And one of the capabilities that we have always had is to be calculating and maintain a cold head precisely when these crazy things happen. Perhaps there has been some hot-headed moments in history, like after the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. That could be one example. Uh, obviously, what happened with Poland during World War II was manipulated, or you could argue the truth is in the middle, but point blank, we cannot go to war stupidly, rashly, and just, acting out over what? Yes, the murder of these white folks is discouraging. The images can change your life. If you have not seen anything like that before, I've seen stuff like that before in person and in the media, and I'm not used to it. I don't crack, but the sadness, the despair that I feel over seeing these things and thinking about the family of these people, it never goes away. It never goes away. And I had one fellow right winger tell me today that, oh, you're just feeling pity for this woman because she's a girl. If it was some Antifa guy that got stabbed by the black guy, you wouldn't be saying anything. And I'm like, hey, bro, I didn't even I didn't even celebrate when Jeffrey Epstein got offed. I was actually quite disappointed because even though the only good pedophile is a dead pedophile, I wanted him to pay for his crimes. I wanted him to have to be uh, subjected to the process, to justice, for him to have some visits in jail by, I don't know, uh, whatever black gang rules that jail that he's at. Some visits by Tyrone and, I don't know, Terrell would be nice for Epstein. It would be education. I don't celebrate the death of nobody. 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 It's pointless for you to spend your energy on celebrating darkness. Death is darkness. In these cases, of course. When a loved one, dies in peace, surrounded by loved ones, after huge achievements in their life. That is sad, but that kind of death is not darkness. Uh, we need to acknowledge that we need to control our urge for violence, or urge for revenge, or urge for payback. Um, it's not because this lady got murdered like this that we're some white guy is gonna go out and get into a train and stab the first black lady that he sees. This is not who we are. We are better. We don't need to fall for the trap. We cannot go around claiming for justice, demanding for truth, demanding accountability, if we ourselves don't hold ourselves accountable by the system that has seen us create the greatest civilization of all time. The three cornerstones of Western society: Roman law, Greek philosophy, and Christian values. That's what made the West as great as it has been. The two first things without Christian values is just a castle made of sand. It's a house of cards. It will crumble down. And any self righteous, conservative, right wing government void of Christian values is just going to end up being violent fascism, the collective will over the individual rights and stuff like that. That is not really what we're looking after. We want a just system. We want people to be able to chase their dreams, to create a family, to acquire their home before they're 40 or 50. 40, hopefully, like people used to do it in mostly everywhere 70 years ago. That's what we want. We want a world where our children are not poisoned, our children are not indoctrinated, they're not brainwashed, they're not taught to masturbate when they're 7 years old. Is that too much to ask? Are we that crazy? I don't think we are asking for much. And I don't think that these minorities that act with violence against us, the ones that are prone to crime and that really hate us. I'm talking when I talk about these people, I'm talking about those ones, not the good ones. I think that should go without saying. I I have a certain responsibility, I guess, and that's something that has been concerning me for weeks. But my preoccupation really started 2 weeks ago because I had a conversation with my wife on the dining table, and I told her, "Just died." I told my wife that the air was feeling heavy, and that I kind of felt a general darkness, some heaviness in the air, that something was bad was about to happen, something really bad. I don't recall if we had this conversation a week or a week and a half ago. And if it was a week ago, it was before I even realized what had happened to Irina, and I had already realized that there had been an increase in attacks on white Europeans by migrants here in Europe, and an increase in the violent rhetoric on all sides. Europeans, white people, where they used to be more cautious about racial slurs and actual calling for stomping people on the ground, kicking their heads in. this kind of language, that I'm all about self-defense, but I'm not all about kicking people in the ground and crushing their skulls, because that's just, I don't know if there's too many angry people living in their mom's basements and stuff like that, but that violent rhetoric is not going to help at all. It's just going to end up complicating all of us. And it's very important that you canalize that energy properly. I'm not calling you out. I'm not trying to diminish you as a man. I'm not trying to humiliate you. But as a man, you need to control your emotions. You need to be pragmatic. Hopefully, you can have some mixture of stoicism and mix that with Christian values, or, some kind of Christian philosophy, because it's not all about, you know, uh, being emotionless and cold. And, that's a big part of it. If you're protecting your family, if you're directing an army, if you're leading people, you have to be cold in your decisions, in which you're always going to look for the survival of the most people you can and the wellness of the most people you can. So in your case, that mission starts at home. As a man, that's your government. That's your village. Those are the, how do you call them? The farmers that you need to protect. Your family. Those are the ones that uh, you know uh, bring all the joy home. And if you cannot protect home, you cannot protect anything. And in that search, in that quest, I've demanded basically for men to, you know have some testosterone, have some balls, have some courage to get angry, to get even. But when I say get even, it's in the moment. It's not like someone is gonna hit you on the street and you're gonna go home and cry, and 3 days later you're gonna come out with a gun and shoot him in the head. That's not what you should do. And it should be without saying. And you could translate this example to a magnitude of what's going on now with Charlie Kirk. We're not gonna go now and go home and cry for a week or two, and come out in numbers of, I don't know, 500 people, and, I don't know, burn 100 people alive, liberals, Antifa, whatever. That's not how things should be. No one is talking about 9/11 today and who did it. Well, it just so happens that I believe that what happened yesterday was provoked by the same people that were behind 9/11. So I actually gonna show you a few videos in that regard. So let's start diving a bit more into Charlie Kirk. I think I already made my points in regards to migration and how to defend yourself and your family and your community without falling for the traps of psyops and Masonic civil wars, all calculated to corral you in, probably concentration camps or something crazy, arrest you, process you. We cannot do what they want us to do, and we cannot attack when they are expecting us to attack. That's not how you win. Now is the time to remain calm, analyze, see whatever information comes out there with this Charlie Kirk situation, because I believe we haven't heard the last of it. But in the meantime, there's quite an interesting number, a number of interesting videos with Charlie, and so I'm gonna start showing them. Let me see. Let me just craft a quick playlist here. I'm not gonna show you the shooting video. because I suppose some of you already saw it, and I suppose it was horrible for you to see it. I told my wife not to see it. It's just no point. Even if it was a fake assassination, as some are claiming, horrible to see. Horrible to see. Okay, I have one. Okay, one, two. Okay, these ones. Okay, one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is not really good, I guess. Okay. Let's hope they come in more or less a good order. I think they came backwards, but let's do it.
Jewish communities have.
Okay. Well, of course, I think that is my duty and is the duty of any Westerner and any Christian to call out both sides, Islam and Talmudic Judaism. They have been clearly weaponized to affect us in not so many good ways. And I'm not one to take sides. I've never taken sides on war, and I don't mean to start now. But we're going to start diving into what happened to Charlie, and then you tell me what you think. I'm going to leave you with these videos, and I'm going to go for a refill because I need some more water. It's very hot in here. Summer is almost gone, but not completely gone. Okay. Okay.
Pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that. In fact, we have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Kopperman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. The part of the so that's totally true. And by the way, Tucker Carlson reinforces this. So I'm going to it was quite a day on the internet. Tucker Carlson was interviewing Candace Owens. We have Candace Owens coming up next hour. And Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us.
We were on top of it.
We actually said it in a different way. We said, I'm glad that Jewish Americans are reconsidering their financing of cultural Marxism. And people misunderstood it intentionally and slandered us as being anti-Semites. But listen to this. Tucker Carlson is completely correct by saying this, that the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has been largely financed by Jewish donors in the country.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
I just witnessed Charlie Kirk get assassinated. It was the most awful thing I've ever seen in my life. He shot him in the neck and blood went everywhere. And the worst part of it all was the liberals who were there were cheering. So I just have one thing to say. If you identify yourself with the Liberal Party, it's okay. You can believe what you want to believe. But if you identify yourselves with those people who were cheering and someone just got killed, I just hope you can take a look at yourself and think, is this who I really want to be? Because that is disgusting. Disgusting.
Our country was founded on common law because the Declaration only refers to God 4 times, and the Constitution doesn't refer to God at all, and it only articulates the structure of government.
So first of all, remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. Let's go to 3 principles of common law: presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, which is the idea of blind justice, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal. Neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you're all one in Jesus Christ, which is the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas, but more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
Political radicalism needs a catalyst. Political radicalism does not come out of peace, prosperity, rising wages, stable families, church attendance, and happy people. Happy people, grateful people, do not get behind Vladimir Lenin, and they certainly don't get behind Chavez or Castro.
That's right.
People that own nothing, that feel like their property is diminishing, or they don't have property, or their dollar is diminishing in value, they start to look for alternatives. And so the political project in front of us as conservatives should be, how do we actually de-radicalize the country in the next couple of years? That's my obsession. And that's why I say I try not to think about all this other stuff, because it just, it's so much brain space. My number one obsession is I know what is coming next. So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country is a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that's an IDF soldier. Right, the whole country is surveilled, and so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu is basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Realize that Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. The sweatpants and the Harvard jacket, the kind of disheveled hair, looking as if he was so smart and above the clouds that he was doing advanced mathematic equations on the back of napkins. But if you actually go into some of the videos of people that met with Epstein at the time, they said he was awfully unimpressive when it came to finance and markets and economics. It's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible. Easy, not hard. And this is no longer just speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, Saudi intelligence, or maybe he was just a hired gun. Maybe he was just the guy that countries would go to and park a couple $100 million and say, hey, can you get one of the members of the royal family with a 13-year-old so we can get them to do what we want to do? Members of Congress are actively being blackmailed. The Epstein playbook is being used on a daily basis. Jeffrey Epstein was not a financier. He was not a hedge fund manager. Jeffrey Epstein was a key player in a multi-decade blackmail operation against the most powerful people on the planet. And one thing a friend said to me, interestingly, which is, okay, Charlie, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, on so like maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse.
Kilo, contact departure, 126 Ladder, how anything? For departure, Philadelphia.
You can run, but you know it's ending. At the bottom of the grave, you're digging out. When the truth comes out, yeah, you know this is just the beginning. Lights crumble down when the truth comes out. Lights crumble down when the truth comes out. You can try to...
31 years old. Two children, 31 years old. Two children, 31 years old.
That's what's been around so far. And, you know, the first thing that I told my wife, because I had actually unfollowed Charlie from Instagram when the whole Epstein Files thing was exploding, because he made a video that rubbed me the wrong way, saying that he believed the version that Pam Bondi had put out, and that he believed what's his name, Bongino, and that he believed Cash Patel, and that he was not going to insist on digging more into Epstein, and that it should be over. We should be look for the future. Fast forward 3 months. For 3 months, he started going out of the narrative. He started going, a bit out of bounds, you could say, exposing certain truths about Israel that, at least from his platform, is huge. It's huge that he was talking about these things, because as someone that, in my eyes, was probably the biggest platform after the Daily Wire, and obviously the Daily Wire is fully Zionist. Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro are obviously in bed with Netanyahu, and they're following an Israeli intelligence or military script in their programming. So I believe that Charlie Kirk was very similar, obviously because of his albeit blind support for Donald Trump and JD Vance, and more often than not, overlooking the bad things or the stupid things that they were doing. And I still follow him on Twitter, but I'm almost never there. I'm almost never on Facebook. I mostly use Instagram. I like to watch quick videos like that, and for research, I do use Twitter quite a lot, but not as much as I used to. And when I saw the murder, I immediately saw him bleeding out. That was the first thing I saw before, be, without any warning. I just opened Telegram. The video was an autoplay. Boom. And the first thing that came to my mind was this was a professional hit. This was before I knew that the killer had shot from 180 meters. At least that's what they're saying. Now there seems to be a version that there could be another shooter from the ground level. Some are claiming that, so I will still need to, do more digging in that regard to kind of debunk that or validate it. But people are saying that, so we don't know for sure if the perp or the suspect that we saw on the ceiling was the actual shooter or a decoy. We know that, for example, the old man that was first arrested, I'm gonna give you some info here that I dug earlier. His name is George Zinn, and he reacted very guilty at first. He was even yelling, shoot me," when he was being taken out by the police. And it seems like it was a perfect distraction that allowed the shooter to escape and allowed the decoy shooter to escape, perhaps. Um, so, in Jewish Ashkenazi origin, the name Sin appears often adopted during the 18th and 19th centuries, when Jews in German speaking lands were required to take fixed surnames. So, this is the first old man that was arrested, a Jewish, albeit Ashkenazi, old man from German descendants. Quite interesting. Um, the smoking gun for me is that the sudden change of Charlie Kirk exposing Israel for what it is, exposing Epstein for what it was, basically contradicting and going against everything that Ghislaine Maxwell said to the prosecutors 2, 3 weeks ago. She was full of it, lying through her teeth. And someone that has so much influence with the young people, as Charlie did, in my opinion, him going after Israel was quite dangerous for them. And I don't think it was in the script. The reaction of Ben Shapiro during that operation, 48 hours before the murder, is telling. The tweet by Benjamin Netanyahu, 20 minutes after the shooting, one has to wonder. He was the first notorious person to tweet about it. The Jerusalem Post was the first newspaper to report on the murder. So 20 minutes after Charlie gets shot, Benjamin tweets this. Let me share my screen again. Let me find the tweet again. Because for me, this has all the makings of a professional hit, and I'm sorry, but it reeks like Mossad. And if you know what Mossad does, and the Jews like to do in general, the Zionists, the Talmudic Jews, the synagogue of S, I cannot say much because I'd be censored, but this is what Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted 20 minutes after the shooting. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. That much is true. A lion-hearted friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. Well, he used to. As it turns out, Charlie Kirk was not Jewish. He was raised Christian evangelist, which of course some of them follow the Scofield Bible, and it is pervasive in America that some evangelist pastors are 100% Zionist, and they have this false belief that they have to support Israel or um, somehow participate or use Israel in order to be able to um, for the Antichrist to come about. And there's different versions. That's not uh, what we actual biblical Christians believe. Obviously, this is what the Zionists have been pushing to bring their own Messiah. It's complicated. It's religion. It's theology. It's something that a lot of us are not experts in, right? And when you mix it with politics, it just makes for a great mess. But as DC is saying on the comments on YouTube, there's no such thing as Judeo-Christian. This term was basically, and I have actually the exact information here because I've been really trying to understand better these phenoms. And basically, the term Judeo-Christian is a complete psyop and wasn't coined until recently. The earliest recorded uses of Judeo-Christian appear in the United States in theological writings and religious periodicals in the late 1800s. And guess what? It was Masonic and Jesuit infiltrators within the church who coined it. At this stage, it was often used by liberal Protestant theologians. Judeo-Christian values became a popular political and cultural phrase in the US in the post-World War II and Cold War era. Yes, after the Jews basically won the war against Europe by blackmailing and psyoping the US and the UK into killing their European brothers and sisters. This after massacring over 40 million Christians thanks to the Bolshevik Revolution, all the while ritually murdering the last Tsar of Russia, Nicholas II Romanov, who ruled from 1894 until his abdication in 1917. Basically, Islam and Talmudic Judaism are cut from the same cloth, but they would like for you to believe the opposite and that the Jews are our biggest allies or biggest friends. They're not such thing. They have manipulated us and played us like a fiddle for a long time, but everything comes to an end and playtime is over. And I think people need to realize that these people are not our friends. These people have been blackmailing our people to further their own satanic interests for decades, if not centuries, as it started in Europe before America. They hate each other, but they hate us more. And it seems to be we are the only thing standing between them and world domination. My 2 cents. So the tweet continues. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. This, for me, is a clear signal. This is what happens when you bite the hand that fed you. And look what happened to Charlie in public in front of his children. This is what's going to happen to you if you decide to follow your own narrative and to all of a sudden start noticing the sins of Israel, of the Judeo culture, because it's not Judeo-Christian. No such thing. Doesn't exist. It's a myth. It's a trap. And Yes, it's good that we have lost the fear to being called racist. Yes, it's good we have lost the fear to being called names because we defend our own thing, our country, our land, our family, our way of life, our culture. It's a good thing. Most people are losing the fear to fight back, but fight back is something that we must do first with our brains and then with our hearts. Control the emotions. Do not fall for psyops. Do not be a useful idiot. Do not ruin your life because of sheer fortuit anger. You know, there's reasons to go and chimp out because now some leftists and African American people are mocking the reaction of white people being upset about these murders, and they're saying that we're chimping out. It's a term that is used backwards, usually, to describe black people being over aggressive. Some people use it. I've never used it, even though I agree with using whatever language you want to use. I believe in complete freedom of speech. But these guys have no idea. The moment white people really chimp out is not people being stabbed in trains what you have to worry about. It's something else entirely. When the pendulum swings, when you push the pendulum so hard to the left and it bounces back with triple the strength and the speed to the right, and it's been your making, it's all your making. You have asked for it, you have begged for it, and now you act surprised when the pendulum swings back with such violence that it cuts some heads off. Figuratively speaking, of course. It is a battle, a spiritual battle that has never changed. It continues to be a spiritual war, and more than ever, we need to be united. More than ever, we need to stop wasting time in arguing stupid stuff. Um, this is a necessary point of discussion today. It might be being used for a distraction. We might be looking at this now, and they're doing some shenanigans elsewhere, perhaps. But this needed to be discussed today because, as a proponent of men defending land, men defending God, family, and country with strength and honor and violence if needed, if it's the last resource. It is also my responsibility to call for people to calm down when these moments of seemingly provoked conflict come about. Problem, reaction, solution. Let's not accept their solution. Let's reject it. Let's offer a counter solution when they least expect it. They're smart, but we're not dumb. They have the guns, but we have the numbers. And we must try to do this the smartest way we can with the little amount of casualties possible. That's I'm gonna die on that hill. And I am very capable of violence. I have been capable of violence. I have been forced to protect my life with violence and have been absolved of any crime or any consequence twice. Crime in Latin America is not a joke. And we grow over there in a way that some in America and some in Europe are learning how to live that way now. sadly. It's something I never wanted for you. As someone that has family in the States, as someone that now lives in Portugal, when I first moved here, I was shocked. I was like, what is this sense of nothing is going on? Because even me, coming from Costa Rica, and the petty violence, the petty crime, the amount of petty crime and sheer violence that you see on the streets there, where since I was 18, I've been walking with a knife in my belt, guns, you name it. There was always this alert. You learn, you get used to live in a permanent state of alert, always looking behind you. If you hear a motorcycle, you don't know if it's going to come to rob you, shoot you. It's extreme because I wasn't a preppy guy. I grew up middle class, but I usually like to hang with people from you know what you would call hoods and stuff like that because I was into juvie stuff. I was a juvenile. I did my fair share of juvenile crimes as I was an idiot, basically. Never got caught, thank God, and changed my life. And then I was a musician and all that. And, I know I've been around all kinds of people: low class, middle class, high class, poor, rich, black, white, yellow, orange, brown. And, we don't really have this racial divide over there, but we do have streets and governments completely controlled by drug cartels, and it just levels down to gangs in neighborhoods and stuff like that. So you grow up as a descendant of Europeans and colonizers. You grow up in a place like Costa Rica, and you already come with these fighting European genes, and you're raised in dangerous streets where people get mugged and stabbed every day, two or three people per day, if I'm not mistaken, nowadays. Uh, I believe the amount of murders in Costa Rica last year was like 700. We're talking about a country of 5 million people. So obviously, you come here and you see the streets of Europe and you feel safe, and you see these pickpockets and these petty criminals here in Europe, and they try to mug you, and you just laugh because you say, well, hey, man, I come from Costa Rica, being around, being walking in Nicaragua, Panama, Colombia, and you're not going to mug me here in Europe, you know? That's the mentality. I'm not a kid that was sheltered. I didn't grow up in a sheltered home. I always went to the streets and to do my own thing. And obviously, through a lot of life changes, I was lucky enough to not become a criminal, with the help of God, of course. What I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of us that have been around, that have street smarts, that have been trained in martial arts, that are trained or prepared to use guns, who are former law enforcement, former military, paramilitary, militia trained, especially in America, that are more than prepared to organize and to just go out and clean this whole mess. But as it turns out, I don't think no one that has seen death up close wants to see more death up close. Unless you have a problem in your head, of course. Beware of people that are thirsty for blood or violence or death because they might be bluffing, first of all, They have never killed anybody, because the only kind of person that would still be bloodthirsty after killing people, it's someone you don't want around, because it's either a liar, a poser, a bluffer, or a psychopath. You but when we are backs against the fence, backs against the wall, and our families' lives are on the line, and the independence of our people, their ability to live as free people, to be Christians in Europe, not have their churches burned down, not have their children shot in school or at the church, or not have the buildings where they are working crumbled down because some Zionist agenda decided that they needed to sacrifice 3,500 plus people to manipulate an entire country, an entire world, an entire Western civilization to go fight a war that didn't have anything to do with us. It didn't have any real value. Things were under control in the Middle East before them. And now all this mess is accumulative because of the nonsense that the Zionists and their Shavagoys have been at for 200 years. Because let's face it, England was the first weapon that the Masons and the Zionists really started using, for their own satanic agenda. And of course, it goes along with the usurpers, the fake royals that have been sitting in Buckingham Palace for over 100 years. People that shouldn't be there. People that are also involved with Epstein and Mossad and intelligence, even running MI6 or certain departments in British intelligence, such as Charles, and of course, if I'm not mistaken, William, and to a lesser degree nowadays, Andrew. Bunch of trash is what we have as so-called leaders. Bunch of trash. And as a descendant of French, in my case, I couldn't be more embarrassed, more angry with having someone as low, as squirmy, as sneaky, as malevolent as Emmanuel Macron. And what he has done to the French people, and what he has done to Europe, this Masonic slave, groomed sodomite who married some guy that is rumored to be, I don't know, related to him even. I don't even know. I don't care to know. Victim or not, you have a choice. And Macron already decided. So, predictions. Let's hope this doesn't start anything stupid. Let's hope peace and common sense prevails. I don't think we're in a position to fight a civil war right now. I think the smartest move is, like many others have suggested, to delay the conflict with the migrants and the Zionists and take care of the traitors in our government however we can. I don't know if it's possible, but we need to try. It's either that or you risk your grandkids, in my case, probably my kids, being slaves of Muslims or blacks or Jews, or who knows? Who knows how the tortilla is going to land in the end? How the cookie is going to crumble? It's not looking good. for us. As I said, they have all but driven us to extinction. We used to be over 20% of the world's population. Now we're less than 7%. When people cry about minorities, remember that. Tell them, minorities what? What are you a minority about, crying about? We white people don't cry about that, and we are really a minority. We are almost to the point of no return minority. So, what else has led me to believe that this was a Mossad hit with Charlie? There is this other tweet. I think her name is Erica. Yeah, Erica Kirk. This is a Twitter account of the wife of Charlie Kirk. Let me see if she's even. Oh wow, this is. Did she close her Twitter? Oh no, she's here. Sorry about that, but that would have been crazy sketchy if she closed her Twitter. So, as you can see, this is a lady that is a. I think she's a real threat wife because she's not out there pretending that filming herself cooking and podcasting. Like a thread wife is not online 24/7. So she didn't tweet at all on 2024. You have this December 22, 2023 retweet, and then dark silence for a year, which is understandable. I guess these kids are quite young, and she was probably fully dedicated to raising one of them, who probably was recently born. I don't know how old are they, but they look really really young. This girl might be what, 3 4 years? I don't know. But from 2023, then we moved to March 3rd, where they went to a Cubs game. All good, all normal. The American pastime for by excellence, no baseball. But if you see, she's not proficient in social media. There is this talk that she did.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erica Kirk.
I guess we can listen to it later. But just to give you an idea, she only has 6 tweets this year. 6 tweets in 9 months is quite little. It's less than one tweet per month. You could say it's 0.75 tweets per month. And casually, she tweeted on September 9th. Look, there's 3 days in a row. From July 11, she retweeted Sheriff Joe Arpaio, which, he had done. This guy was a tough cookie in Arizona. I actually think he was great in trying to keep that state crime free. I guess later the Democrats, of course, as usual, came and destroyed everything he had done, as it happened in New York with Giuliani. Most politicians are controlled, but for better or worse, Republicans tend to be tough on crime. So that's good for everyone. So September 8th, Ephesians 2, 8, and 9. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that not one may boast. Interesting. Then, September 9, one day before the tragedy, Psalm 34 and 8. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. And then we have the last one, who you can tell people have been quite responsive with this one. 34 million views and 669,000 likes, 75,000 reshares, 30K comments. Psalm 36 and 1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. The day that her husband was shot in the neck, in one of his main arteries, it seems. Um, does this mean she was aware that her husband was having a hard time, threatened, perhaps by Netanyahu, who he spoke with 2 weeks ago, perhaps by Netanyahu's lapdog, Ben Shapiro, who casually today he just said that he's destined to follow, basically to fill up for Charlie Kirk. Shapiro has self appointed himself as the official replacement of Charlie Kirk. Isn't that convenient? Isn't that a bit too early? Let the man at least be buried and then decide who's gonna take the baton, no? It's a bit strange. It's a bit strange. It's a bit suspicious. And these people cannot help themselves. That's the thing. They have no self control. They have to brag constantly about their schemes. They have to mock people because they enjoy it. And that's what makes them predictable a lot of the times. Is this complete lack of this lack of self-awareness and this weakness where they bend the knee to their own devices, to their own vices, desires, vanities. And this is precisely the weakness of the predatory class, their own sins. But as it turns out, we're all sinners, and our sins are also our weakness. That's basically what has gotten us in this position. The sins of the lesser men that have been ruling our countries for decades. They bend the knee. Everyone else after them did the same. Out of fear, nepotism, heavy corruption, infiltration, manipulation of votes, manipulation of the masses, regime change, all these things, all this arsenal that the elites have been using against us. Tons of weapons used against us. And still, we're here fighting back. Still, we are able to delay their agendas. Still, we're able to make them nervous. They mock us here and there because they cannot help themselves. Are they super relaxed, convinced that they're going to win? No, they're not. And a lot of them believe that they can win because Satan has somehow made them believe that's possible. But I have a feeling that a lot of them know that they're going to lose and it's going to be ugly for them. God wins. God wins in the end. It's just the way it is. There was something else. Let me check my notes here. Telegram, nope. So Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, and Steven Crowder all came out at the same time, releasing information that it was a trans activist, the killer. That's a bit coordinated. I personally completely distrust Alex. I know he's controlled by Israel, and Steven Crowder seems to follow the same agenda. Now, Megyn Kelly has tried to reinsert herself in the conservative media after being ostracized because she did a disgusting piece with James Alefantis, cuddling him, protecting him, portraying him as a victim of us crazy lunatic far right conspiracy theorists. And now she's there acting like nothing happened. Has she ever addressed that? Has he ever spoken about all the, the job, the work that she did for James Elephantis? A clear PDF file, not trying to get banned or censored here. You never know. And now there's supposedly a book or several books published on Amazon one day before the murder about the murder. So all these things together, in my opinion, this is not Charlie Kirk participating in a hoax, and I'll tell you why. I do know that sometimes, in some cases, it doesn't happen as often as some people have published out there, where they come up with these lists. There are like 1,000 names of people that are cloned, replaced, or witness protection. Those lists are nonsense, and I've seen them all. They have been around for 5, 6 years, full of it, full of shit. But in some cases, I do know that some of these characters, these actors, make a deal with their own handlers to just quit the part they're playing with a fake death for some purpose, political, social, religious, and they go and live a new life somewhere where nobody even has access to where they live. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Do I believe this was a hoax? No. Why would Israel have all these loose ends on purpose? This unnecessary. If it was a hoax where everyone was in bed together, including Kirk, why would he start talking against Israel at the end, creating all this sudden? What this did is basically turn the heads of a lot of young people to start looking into Israel. Young people that perhaps is less experienced, less knowledgeable than most of us today in this live stream, and they never heard about the Kalergi Plan. They never heard about the protocols of the elders of Zion, etc., etc. It's a bit counterproductive, in my opinion. Now, with these people, you never know. They're smart. They're conniving as snakes, so you know they could have a hidden intention that flies over my head. That's possible. Why would they sacrifice this guy, though, for this purpose? If you look at Charlie Kirk, he was only 31 years old, and you look at his charisma, his influence, his general, his looks. He looks very presidential. He talks very well. He's very tall. He has this stylized image. A great speaker. Obviously, all the people that he has registered to vote as Republicans, all these youngsters, in 10 or 20 years, they're going to keep following this guy, probably. If he would try to be president as a as a Manchurian candidate, working for Israel, as we all thought he was working for Israel, it just seems that he was working for Israel unknowingly. Not, I don't know if he ever signed a pact with the devil. I don't know if he ever, was actually put to the side, yes or no, are you going to work with us, or if he was only used because he was brainwashed to think with a Judeo-Christian mindset, as he was raised evangelical. I don't know. If you know the answers, if you know it all, tell me. Send me an email. Send me a tip. I'll write a note about it. I'll write an article about it. Send me the goods. I don't know. I'm just trying to see what is possible, and I'm trying to tell you what my gut tells me, which is unconscious, pattern recognition. That's what your gut feeling is. It's your unconscious telling you, I feel bad here. This is dangerous. I don't believe this. This person is lying. This is a great place to be at. This is a woman you should try and marry. All those things, gut feelings. I suggest you learn to trust them. I trust mine, and they have never failed me. I believe that it doesn't make sense. I believe that Charlie Kirk, if he was controlled and part of this hoax, he would have been more useful for the predatory class to be used as a puppet, very charismatic puppet in the future. I believe that he went against the narrative. He was warned about it. His wife knew something was going on, and he was taken out. And Netanyahu was openly bragging about it and warning others to follow Q, literally, and not that literally. Fall in line. Don't go against Israel. Don't go around saying that Epstein was Mossad. We already settled that. You know, Trump said it was a hoax. It must be a hoax. There's been articles written from 2 weeks ago that Kirk and Trump had a falling out over freedom of speech because Trump apparently wants to push these laws in which criticizing Israel or Judaism is penalized. And Charlie believes that that's nonsense, or he used to believe it. I don't know. But I am here to present you the facts, the things that have appeared out there. Some of them might be false, some of them might be hiding something that we haven't noticed yet. You decide. In the end, obviously, when these things happen, some people come up. One person comes up with something new, a revelation. Other person in another country comes with something new, and those little pieces at the end come together to form an hypothetical case, an hypothetical situation on how things happened, why they happened, when, what was the reason behind them, and what are going to be the repercussions of it. All these things we want to think about and analyze before deciding what are we going to do with our lives, with our will, with our hearts in regards to this situation of feeling persecuted, feeling violented, feeling abandoned, feeling basically hunted down by the mostly Jewish, Zionist, Ashkenazi Talmudic Jews who are very interested in promoting multiculturalism, pornography, vaccines, poison, uh, all kinds of degeneracy and vices and distractions and sickness and you name it, all on top of us. Both the Zionists and the cult of Saturn, of course. In the end, the Jews worship Saturn. It's just that most of them don't know or don't admit it, but they do. And the Muslims do as well in their own way. That's the funniest part. They're both afraid of pork, um, and they have this thing with animal sacrifice, halal meat, kosher stuff. All these things that they do to I don't know satisfy their demigods, and all the while one religion diminishes Jesus as just some prophet, and the other one claims that Jesus is boiling in a pot of excrement in hell forever and ever, when we know that's just not the way it is. Um, so for now, I guess that we have shown everything that we have so far on Charlie. If this ends up being bigger than it is now, and it's quite big, it has affected many people. I believe I will be probably doing a deep dive, perhaps a video, a mini documentary if I find something that gives it more content, more substance. As things are now, what we have is scarce. Um, if it's a hoax, well done, well played. I fell for it. I don't care. I'm at that point where I don't care being called a racist, a Nazi, or that I made a mistake. If I made a mistake, I made a mistake. Um, I'd rather pray for my enemies. I'd rather pray for Charlie, and I'd rather pray for his wife and daughter and son, and whoever is having a horrible time with this situation. I'd rather pray for Irina Sarutska and her family, and be at peace with who I am at the end of the day, just like most of us are. Um, let's hope that this doesn't derive in anything stupid, that no more loss of innocent lives happen, or it happens as the least possible. And yes, I guess it's appropriate to close this live stream with a small short prayer. If you're not a Christian, that's okay. You're good. Nobody's obliging you. Nobody's judging you. Um, but perhaps it would be good for you to listen to the prayer. Dear God, King of Kings, please forgive my enemies for all their transgressions. Please protect those who are in danger, those who are vulnerable. Take care of my family, my friends, my enemies, my colleagues, and my detractors. I hope that you can give me the energy to keep moving on with strength and honor among all the different lies and schemes put in front of me by the schemers and the devil. Protect us from all evil. Thank you, Lord. Amen. Just a made up prayer. I usually like to do that to make my own prayers and talk with God my way. You have your way. I hope that you are able to maintain tranquility and peace. And despite all this social turmoil, remember where you came from. Don't let hatred invade you. Don't let you become like they are. We are better. We don't need to lower ourselves to kill random people. We don't need to kill children or women or elderly. We will never need to. We can be strong by being just, and we can never play the game that the Freemasons have prepared for us. Do everything except that. Don't fall for the trap. God bless you. Take care of yours, please. If you're a man, fight for what you love, protect who you love, and God bless you. Take care, guys. Thank you for being here.